So should I make an announcement at the very beginning too that the meeting is no longer live streaming?
Teresa got some good pictures.
Public comments.
She got them. All right. So this is the current.
Good evening, everyone. Before I call the meeting to order, I wanted to let everybody know there's a little bit of a change. So our school board meetings will no longer be live broadcast through the YouTube channel, but they will be recorded and posted. And we are also no longer accepting the virtual public comments. So we will be accepting public comments for in-person feedback for and comments for the board, but no longer accepting the online submissions effective today. So, okay. Go ahead and call the meeting to order. Roll call, Lori.
Julia Awe.
Here.
Linda Baker.
Here.
Melissa Bliss. Kevin Hamilton.
Here.
Ben Carley.
Here.
Aaron Noah.
Here.
And Ryan Bell.
Here.
Please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we approve the agenda tonight, I have one change to add. Under the work session section, we will be adding a finance meeting as well. Are there any other comments or questions on the agenda? There being none, I need a motion to approve.
I do have a question. Are we doing some of the new employees are here? Are we doing that before?
We're going to do after the work. Our work session is going to be about 30 minutes.
Got it.
We'll cut it a little short tonight, and then we'll
So
do
they know.
the employees. Yep, good question. Any other comments or questions? There being none, I need a motion to approve.
So moved. Support.
Roll call, Lori?
Julia Awe.
Yes.
Linda Baker.
Yes.
Melissa Bliss. Kevin Hamilton.
Yes.
Ben Carley.
Yes.
And Ryan Bell.
Yes.
Aaron Noah.
Yes. Any public comment for our first section tonight?
We have one from Leslie's, is it Schoolcraft?
Yeah.
Did you want to come on up or you want me to read it? Okay.
I wanted to talk to the school board about getting a paraprofessional for my son. He's disabled, and he was supposed to receive services all year this year, in which his IEP was dropped, and we did not receive any services as soon as the check was given for his count day. And then they decided to continue services 6 days before the end of the year, and so my son is way behind and needs help adjusting, and he needs a paraprofessional, and I need to know how to do that.
Have you been in contact with Superintendent Moog?
No, I've been going through the ISD and Greta Zymet, who made it very clear to my son's legal counsel that he was no longer welcome in her classroom last year, which is the reason why we stayed at home and did ABA services. And the year before that, when my son was in school, in Greta Zymet's class, he didn't eat all year, and we were told, well, we didn't think that that was one of your main priorities, that he ate. So, and this has all been stated in front of all my service providers that can vouch for everything I'm saying, and my son the ball has been dropped on him, majorly. And you guys received a check for him last year. So I'm asking this year, seeing how he was given no services besides 6 days, that this year we start him off with a paraprofessional to see what we can do in this first 6 months to get him going and on track so that hopefully he won't need one in the future. But my son needs help, and I'm asking for it.
Do you have Superintendent Moog's contact information?
No, I do not, because they've told me that they don't know who to ask, they don't know how, they're going to get me the information. Nobody does. They gave me some lady who was resigning, and because nobody wants to help.
Give her your email address and I'm going to write it on. Oh, We've got your contact information, so Superintendent Moog will be in contact with you.
Okay, do we know how long that'll take? Because I was also told that I'd get an IEP by the end of the year, and we're a month past, and I still can't get that.
Somebody will contact you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment, Ann?
I do not have any. Does anyone else have a public comment? We're good?
Superintendent report?
Welcome, everyone, and to our Board of Education. We're going to give you an update on our strategic plan. You all have a packet in front of you with the actual one-pager. And I'll have various people come up, but some of our folks that are in charge of these priority areas are unable to make it tonight. So I'm going to start off with priority 1, which is our safe and secure environments, both physically and emotionally. Physically, you can see our bond construction projects well underway with our secure entries at all the elementaries as well as at the high school. We are also at Andrews. They're working on site renovations, both the house that was purchased about 5 years ago, we've raised that, and that's going to be a new parking lot, as well as the parking lot adjacent to the building has been picked up, and there'll be a new surface. And I think within the next week, 2 weeks, that should be done. Later in the month at Hoppin, a bus turnaround is going to be carved into the property, so it's going to take, and the two big things that our community talked to us about with Andrews and Hoppin was to make sure, can we do something by separating parent cars with buses? And with both these plans at both those schools, we're going to accomplish that. Also, at each building, we'll be updating security cameras as well as a visitor check-in system. And so within the secure entry updates, verifying our visitors, we had 2 non-negotiables in those projects. One was line of sight, so the person responsible for seeing the entrance, we're creating line of sights with windows, as well as updated cameras, and traffic. So any traffic coming into the building after a certain time will be directed right into the main office so that they can be immediately helped and directed where they need to be. And so with a check-in system, which if you've been into other districts, you might have to enter your name and stuff into a system, and then it will spit out some type of badge for you for a visitor. We'll have more for that once we get those systems installed. We'll do some tours and stuff like that. The other part of priority 1 is social emotional wellness, not only for staff but students as well, and that's going to be an ongoing priority. I don't have to say it, these last 18, 19 months have been unlike any other, starting year 35 in education, and it's been nothing like it in 19 months. Nobody was trained for it, and we know that making sure our students come back face-to-face, that we're taking care of their needs from an emotional standpoint. We did screeners all through last year. There are plans of action in place as we kick off the 21-22 school year. We're adding back an additional counselor at the high school, so we'll have 2. We will continue working with our community health and PAWS clinic to provide ongoing intense counseling. And the high school is working with PAWS as well on a grant, just like we did with the middle school a couple years ago, to place a social worker full-time in that building. We'll know more later in July or early August on that grant status. Talking with Nikki today, we are also launching Conscious Discipline for staff professional development. It's going to be offered for pre-K through 2 grades. It starts in August. This is for staff, paras, and teachers. And continuing throughout the school year with various trainings centered around that. We also are involved in Trails, which is a U of M project, Tier 1 training, and we're going to be implementing that not only in middle school and high school, but we're bringing it down to grades 3 through 5. That is also being kicked off in August, and we'll have additional training for 21-22. With that, I'm going to have Nikki come up and briefly talk about priority number 2.
Ron, can I, just a quick question? Sorry. The paraprofessional training, is any of that taking place during the summer, or it all starts after the school year starts?
They'll be involved in the August training as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I think you have the handout that I had given to Ron. So I'm just going to highlight a few of things. I'm not going to sit and go through it word for word. And then when we're in the curriculum work committee, we'll go over some of it more specifically if there's questions. So some of the highlights we have is for the CKLA program. As Ron said, the last 2 years have been a little different. So it's implemented in full, but obviously kind of implemented with 2 wonky years. So hopefully this next year we'll have a full implementation. But we do have some things that have surfaced that we wanted additional professional development in, which is the writing component of CKLA and then small group instruction. So we have professional development in August and September for both of those. And then the other part is CKLA, as you know, when we adopted it, we looked at it, it's very strong science, social studies based. So we want to cross-reference our science and social studies standards to see what standards we're already hitting in CKLA so that we can do like a thematic teaching. Our core content areas, we have implemented that with 120 to 90 minutes block for ELA and math. Social studies and science, we have 30 minutes. It's a combined 30 minutes each day, so it's not, they get 30 minutes of science, 30 minutes of social studies. It's 30 this or that. 612, we have the 55 to 60 minutes per core. Our middle school Amplify Science is full implementation. It's gone really well. We do not have the spring 21 science scores yet for M-STEP, but in talking to the science teachers at the middle school, they said what they do with that Amplify Science is almost exact what they do on the M-STEP. So a lot of the vocabulary, a lot of the pictures, visuals, all of that kind of went hand in hand. So that was really neat to hear. But we don't have those initial scores yet. For monitoring the process for implementation, we have work days coming up in August. We didn't do anything in June because everybody needed a break, and July is July. So a lot of our work days are and professional development will be in August. We will be working on pacing guides, updating our curriculum maps, making sure our lesson plans and our observations, when staff do that they align with our standards to make sure that we're implementing the standards that are adopted by the state. Our career development program, which came out 2 years ago, it's actually in 1920 it came out. A lot was done with that right away, and then we came to the pandemic. A little bit of it was put on hold. We are revisiting that as principals and making sure that we're implementing the standards that it's expected by the Michigan career development program. One of the neat things that we have is Zello, and that is offered at our middle school. It is now, our middle school and our high school, but it is now down in the elementary that the ISD through, I think it was one of the bonds where they were doing a lot of focus on the building and career development, that is now offered for free to elementary. So we had a presentation from Beth, I believe her name was at the ISD. Do you know Beth? Ben? I think her name was Beth.
Yeah, it could be.
Elizabeth? Goes by Beth, maybe? Anyway, so she came and presented to us, and we're looking at to implement that. It hits a lot of these development programs. So we're going to be looking at implementing that during our family time. I know a lot of you have heard about Sunrise and family time, that we can implement a lot of those standards at that time. The other part is, Jason and Amanda and I talked last week, we need to be a lot more intentional with our 7th and 8th grade with career development. So this year, we're going to start looking at on how we can start being much more intentional in that 22-23 school year. So we've already started that conversation because we do know that it's required to start it in 7th grade, and then 8th grade you revisit it, and then it kind of prepares you into what classes to take for high school. We do well at developing it in 7th grade, but we don't do as well revisiting it in 8th grade. So we do know that is something we need to work on that. So we're going to come up with a plan on what that looks like for the following year. As far as our instructional strategies, we use our evaluation tool, which is Thoughtful Classroom. We're going to be in our 5th year of that. We're finally at a year where we are starting to feel a lot more comfortable with everything that is in it, because you ever look at it, it's very extensive. So we will be, again, focusing on the cornerstones and the episodes throughout the evaluation. The use of classroom technology, pandemic learning brought every bit of that. So a lot of Seesaw, Google Classroom, Study Island, Zern, Screencastify. We increased our Chromebook inventory, so we'll be 1-to-1 for 612, which is fantastic. And then we have projector updates that we're hoping to do throughout the 21-22 school year. As far as assessments, we do have a protocol now that all principals use now, as far as for our PLCs, so everybody's talking about the same things, and we review those. I try to review them every month, but they put them in a folder for me for benchmark meetings. Those are highlights. I could probably sit here and talk for hours. You guys know my passion for curriculum and instruction and assessment, but I won't bore you with that. Any questions?
Do you have a calendar for the professional development?
For
The dates
yes,
and
I do.
topics?
Yep, I'll share it with you.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. All right.
Thanks, Nikki.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nikki. Next area is hiring highly qualified and diverse staff. How do we recruit, develop, and retain high-quality staff here at Three Rivers? One of the highlights was we updated our teachers' salary schedule to be a lot more competitive, both starting pay and as well as throughout the schedule. I know that Ben had met with Blair with regard to putting together some feedback tool to get to employees regarding benefits. I know that we've got something planned for this fall for teachers to bring in to have them look at some alternate plans, so that we're always trying to look at how do we be as most financially acume as possible, and so we'll be working on that as the school year starts. And the one thing that's ongoing that I know Ben pointed out, he'll be working closely with Nick Bryant with our website. We are looking into how do we get more access in terms of flexibility to add things. It's pretty cumbersome, so we're constantly reviewing that as we look at posting things. The bond construction project's a classic example. Is how do we do things so that we can easily attach it and people can find it quickly? And so we're always reevaluating that. Next up's Blair.
So I have strategic priority number 4, which is assure long-term financial stability. And we have several metrics. We have 6 of them, although it goes to 0.07. There are only 6. And so this last year, we really focused in on one, which is the last one on the listing, which is the assure long-term financial strategy by way of, let me read it exactly, devising a budget planning calendar and assure linkage of budgeting to strategic planning processes. So we actually spent quite a bit of time this year with Plant Moran, who are also our auditors, going through and doing process maps for all the processes that affect the business office. So whether it's accounts payable, hiring, budgeting, anything that we process through. So we now have a process map that we actually will utilize and will follow. Our next step with it is to grow it and attach it to a calendar so that we can see how many times a year we're going to update budget, and within that, how does that back up to when do district administrators that manage budgets need to be prepared and ready to talk. We continue to kind of have curveballs with the state still not having budgets set and that kind of a thing, but we still can do some practice and process internally before we get back to normal cycles outside of COVID. So this next year, we'll look forward to building on the calendars and then also starting to incorporate one of our other items on here, which is the zero-based budgeting practices. So talking about every time we come to a budget, what is it that you need? You know, this year you might need something that's larger than last year dollar-wise, or maybe this year you need something that's less dollars than last year, and that doesn't mean that you're giving everything up. It just means it's not your cycle. That way we can impact the most with our dollars and be most responsible. So we're not just spending dollars to spend dollars because that's the budget, but being really impactful about it. Any questions?
Thanks, Blair.
Thanks, Blaine. Brian's up next.
How are you doing this evening? So we have strategic priority 5.01, which is prioritizing and funding the facility and site master plan. A lot of what we're doing at this point, there's a great deal of overlap. Some of the things that Nikki had shared, the curriculum and technology upgrades related to that, ties in with the work that the IT department's been doing, which ties in the work we've been doing with the facility side. So you'll hear a lot of things being kind of repeated that have already been mentioned, but from the facility and support side of it. In relation to the greatest effort to fund the facility and site master plan work that we did a number of years ago, of course, was the passing of the bond work in relation to the secure entranceways and the other related mechanical upgrades and things of that nature. You layer on top of that the work that was generated out of the COVID mitigation strategies and things of that nature, which none of us had planned for, but we've leveraged that to the best of our ability to work right alongside with what we were doing with anticipated enhancements that were planned already as part of the long-term facility and master plan. Basically, the course that we've been on here recently and are still just kind of fine-tuning is a lot related to monitoring and communication. In our Series 1 bond project work, we're progressing. Of course, if you've been anywhere around the district, you've seen, if you've been by the schools, a lot of different things going on, large-scale equipment, operations, depending on which school you're seeing. And all those projects have started. So we have multiple sites: high school office, high school weight room, Park Elementary, Andrews Elementary, Ruth Hoppen Elementary, and Norton Elementary, all simultaneously started about 2.5 months ago as far as construction and project work. We've been meeting monthly and doing update meetings where we're sharing information amongst the construction management unit, our architectural and engineering unit, as well as our business unit here in the district, and of course the planning on my side and superintendent's side. That information then gets boiled down into a monthly report that goes out, and of course some of you will be seeing that again at the working meeting tonight, and then that'll get shared with the board as a whole when the working groups report back. That information, as far as the public and staff goes, gets disseminated through our actual website. We have a posting that gets posted to on a monthly basis that shows update, photographs, summaries, and projected scheduling for the next 3 to 4 weeks as far as anticipated construction work at the different sites and where we are in the process. We have also engaged in designing or design planning meetings and budget planning meetings for the Series 2 bond. It is time to get started on that. We've had some initial conversations and initial meetings. Ron and Nikki with the instructional side and the principals have been working on starting to develop their, or formalize, if you will, their instructional methodologies that will help guide in that development as far as the middle school remodeling and renovation work, as well as some of the other work going on in different facilities across the district. COVID, as I had mentioned, also brought about some changes with some of our mechanical upgrades that were part of our master plan in form. We've had to use that baseline as a springboard and find ways to leverage that to our advantage while we layer on some additional strategies to help mitigate COVID and illness create healthy buildings for when the students and staff return at the end of the summer. Just as a brief update to that, we did actually go through a public RFP process. Bids were awarded at the last board meeting, and we're anticipating air purification systems in all operational spaces across the district by the end of the summer. So prior to staff and students returning, every space will be conditioned properly and creating clean air and what have you, mitigating the COVID concerns and things of that nature. We've also been maintaining efforts on our playground and play areas. We've gone through, we did pass successfully again during this last month, all of our playground inspections at all of our sites. We do have some identified repair work that has to be done, and we're in process of ordering the related equipment, and we've internalized that work to mitigate costs by doing it ourselves. So we'll be actually doing the repair work as per spec by the certifying entity. So that's kind of in a nutshell what's going on with our alignment with the facility and site master plan and prioritizing that with all the different curves that have come along the way in the last 19 months. As far as Section 5.02, developing and implementing a technology infrastructure and equipment replacement plan. I can't speak very much to that. That does fall into Nick Bryant's area, and I'm sure he'll, if he's here this evening, will be able to update that, or has been updating us collectively as an administrative unit. But Nick and I have been actually spending a lot of time working on the infrastructure side as it relates to the bond work, as it relates to IT departments' plans for the next few years, and trying to align those efforts so that we're not duplicating any work or anything of that nature, lining things up with what we're doing with our renovation work along with what they're trying to do. And a lot of good partnerships. I mean, case in point, Nikki's mention of the overhead projection units, we were able to tie that in with one of our partnered electricians. So again, looking at ways to mitigate the costs as we implement those things and provide the, I guess you'd call it, the support services necessary so that he can plug his stuff in so that they can provide the services they need to the instructional teams that are going to utilize it. As far as the facilities, maintenance and grounds, equipment maintenance and replacement plans, we have gone through, as was mentioned before, and done all our audits. Those all have been completed. We are in the process of finalizing replacement plans. Again, I really hate always bringing COVID up, but there were a lot of things that went into flux over the course of the last number of months, looking at different strategies, the ways we're going to be moving forward. So, of course, all that impacts what do you need to do the job. So a lot of the replacement plan has kind of done a little bit of this, you know, well, maybe we're going this way, well, maybe we're going this way. And as that plan has come to finalization, we're at the point of fine-tuning some of that stuff. So it's still in progress at this point. We have gone through, though, in the interim, spent a great deal of time and effort going through and making sure all of our existing equipment was up to speed. We had it spec'd, we had it inspected, we had it evaluated, costed out any type of repair work that might be done, internalized some of that repair work. Thankfully, I have a grounds team, which is phenomenal with their mechanical abilities, and we actually reallocated some of their resources to do a mechanical repair work, some of our custodial equipment and things of that nature during their off time, if you will. And so we've gotten some extra life out of things that probably had already reached their end of life cycle. So as far as Section 5.04, bus replacement, we have put together a recommendation. We completed our audit during the last session. We came back with some recommendations for the upcoming year, and then some future recommendations for financial planning for the 22-23 cycle. So that is kind of in a nutshell that strategy. Any questions?
Brian, do you have an estimate of when you want to have those replacement plans in effect, when you think that the plans will be done? Like, are you looking at August or December or?
For maintenance equipment, custodial equipment, we'll have custodial equipment pretty much wrapped up by the end of the summer. We'll have the other two, probably push that out to the middle of next year. We've gone through vehicles and buses and things like that, so we have some ideas on how that cycle should be working. We just have some fine tuning to do.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
And strategic priority number 6 is nurture, engage, supportive community. And during COVID, one of the things that we provided, especially for students, what we found out is providing some student engagement for virtual learning training that Communications by Design did. It was also for pairs as well, which we found out that we had disengaged learners, and what did we need to do to draw them back in. We also did some Title I family elementary, for Title I families at the elementary buildings. We created videos to provide academic support for families at home. And also our ELL, or English Language Learners, instructional specialists provided a video for our English Language Learner families for supporting students at home. Another highlight was COVID provided us as an opportunity to, when we couldn't meet, we had to stream our board meetings live and also find ways to engage the community electronically. We continue that through June with the advent of the orders that have come through to allow us just to be meeting in person. We moved to our in-person meetings, as well as we're going to be videotaping, as you heard earlier from President Nowak, and then we'll post those videos after every meeting. And so that has allowed us to increase our ability to reach more people or provide more access, other than having people having to come here physically. And you have on your table in front of you the updated Life Track, which is our postgraduate tracking process. So that's for the class of 2021. We survey our outgoing seniors with a various amount of questions pertaining to their experience here at Three Rivers Community Schools. Carrie updated me about 4 o'clock today. The 1 year out survey for class of 2020 will be done late August, early September. We should have those results October, November, which is really valuable information because you get an idea of the students of that class said, here's what they plan on doing when their next steps after graduation, and then a year out, you can see how many students are either going to community college or university or college or right to work or the military. So it's really valuable information. Also, they'll provide input on how well we had prepared them for their next steps. And then again, 4 years from then, at the 5th year, we'll get another report on class of 2020. And then again next year, the start of the fall of 22, we'll do the 1 year for the class of 21 and so forth. So that is our update on our strategic plan. Thanks, Nikki and Blair and Brian, for providing that input, and Ben did a nice job, and so did Carrie with their input. So.
Thank you, guys. Okay, up next, we're going to move into our work sessions. So again, the Finance Committee, Curriculum Committee, Facilities Committee, and Human Resources Personnel Committee will each be meeting for about 30 minutes. Chairs of those committees, be prepared to give just a minute or two update on what was talked about in committee to the board as a whole when we get back together. Okay? All right. Lori, do you have a packet for Melissa with the stuff from tonight or no?
It's,
It was all online, right? Okay.
yep. She wants one.
Well, I'm wondering if you could get this to her.
And I have handouts tonight that I will give you.
Good, how are you? Good. Everybody back? Good. Okay, so we'll do quick updates from facility, or from committee chairs first. Up first for finance, Julia.
Okay, so we talked about GSRP scale needs to be fast-tracked so we can get people hired. We're down to 1 teacher/classroom, and the ISD wants us to have 4. So then the question to you, Ron, is does the board need to approve the scale on those, on that?
Yes.
We do? Okay, so when, we need to kind of escalate.
August?
Okay.
August 2nd.
Blair, is that enough time?
Yeah, I mean, as long as it could potentially start to be used for advertising for hiring people. We want to get people hired. To me, it's not been our practice for the board to set the scale for a non-union group, but I don't know if that is what you want your practice to be going forward.
I don't know.
So is that a question?
Yeah.
You've never done that before?
Yeah, I don't think we have. That's why we were questioning.
We'll put it in action.
Okay, perfect. Also, we noted that we need to develop a process/procedure for postings, develop a process map for the new employees. And then we want to reiterate that we need Blair to be included in all the meetings financially related to the bond. Just by default, just make sure she's included going forward. And then we also, the Finance Committee would like, or is requesting a list of all the change orders from the bond, just to get a list to see the cost and, okay. That's all we got for finance.
Any questions for Julia? All right, up next, curriculum. Linda?
Okay, I'll do part of this and I will turn the rest of it over to Nikki. Anyway, we discussed all the professional development offerings that are going to be happening during August. Slightly less, I think, than in past years because, as Nikki said, everybody needed a break. And so, anyway, there's going to be curriculum work days for K-12. That's going to be 2 sessions of that, August 2nd to 5th and the 9th to 12th. There's going to be SIOP, and that's going to be a 2-day session for pre-K through 12, and paras and administrators as well. And pre-K 8 to 8 math, that's going to be the Eureka Math, Delta, Zern, and some other stuff, and that's going to be 2 sessions. One is going to be for pre-K to 5th grade, August 23rd, the other 6th to 8th grade, August 24th. The CKLA writing, that's going to be a virtual presentation for pre-K through 5 teachers, paras, and administrators by the Amplify Reading. Amplify Reading is also going to present another K through 5 let me see here, specifically for reading then, introduction and implementation of amplified reading to support students. Targeted team teaching, Jen Graber is going to be facilitating that for first and second grade teachers, parents and administrators, August 10th or 11th, 10th and 11th, I believe. Conscious discipline, which is a comprehensive classroom management system, is going to be presented for pre-K through third grade for parents and administrators, teachers, August 26th. And then they're going to have 4 2-hour sessions throughout the year on conscious discipline. And there's several kinds of conscious discipline things that happen. We have, actually, I'm part of a nonprofit that has sponsored some parent conscious discipline classes, and so it's kind of a management thing for kids, parents, and I suppose teachers at this point to effectively get past some difficulties and conflicts that may occur. So anyway, trails also will be happening August 19th. That was just an add-on through 3rd through 5th grade teachers, and the My World Interactive, which is 6th to 8th grade social studies. This will be aligning with the new state mandated social studies standards. That's going to be August 10th, a couple hours, August 17th again, and that'll be implemented by someone from that group. And then we have the priority 2, deliver appropriate curriculum, instruction, and assessment, and Nikki would be the very best one to go over that very quickly. She has some highlights, I think. So, Nikki, if you want to hit those 4 or 5 things you had highlighted, that'd be great.
That's what I talked about in my
That's her.
So if there was any specific question.
That's what she presented already.
There, okay, so anyway, she has some pink stuff on there.
Okay. Gotcha.
Anyway, Nikki's done this is a lot of work, so 50 to 60% of the staff is taking advantage of these things, which is apparently about maybe a little above average, and so that's great to know after coming off a terrible, probably a very difficult year for everybody. So, so this will allow kids to be met where they are academically, and hopefully that will continue.
Thank you. Any questions for Linda?
Well, I think probably this is more for Nikki.
That's fine.
No offense. I have in front of me the PD calendar that you gave me. For the last couple meetings, we've talked about the professional development for parapros with sensitivity, with different types of training that they've been lacking. None of that is listed here. When is that training?
That will be during the school year when we have our built-in PD days. These are all volunteer. I can't make it mandatory for them to attend. So because of the importance of that, we would offer during the school year while they're here.
Okay, have we looked at a couple programs that are?
Blair and I have started we've looked at some modules that they can take during those days that we have built in the school year that we did in the calendar in September, October, January, February, March, so that we can implement in the 6 hours, the 5 hours that they're here with us.
And they also provided a list of ones that were interesting to them, for us to include in the list of what we look at.
Yeah. So those days are built in where they're mandatory to attend, where these are not, so it would be kind of touch and go who would give that PD. So it's important to us enough to make sure that we offer it during the school year.
Okay, so we have specific topics that we're going to require, is that correct?
That's correct.
All right.
And I was going to ask a very similar question later about behavior interventionists, because you mentioned parapros, but I'm assuming you're talking about that whole group of folks that's working
Correct.
anything related to behavior beyond just the classroom teachers. So on that prevention model, and it made me think of that as well when Linda's talking about conscious discipline, any of those opportunities for training for behavior interventionists, which I know you're already on it, but I wanted to bring that up anyway. So
thanks, Ben.
We have our behavior interventionists are attending in August a 2-day session on how to support students' behavior through the MTSS model.
Great.
So we have all of them attending those 2 days.
So that's good. And then the trails, we're really hoping that we can get all of them to attend that one as well. If I can't get them to all to attend, we'll probably figure out how to build something into the school year as well. So that's the hard part about August is because it is volunteer. I can't guarantee that people would definitely take it, but if it's important, we'll put it in the school year.
What's the date on the August one for the BIs?
Which one? The trails or the one that's through the TRCS?
The one that's through the MPSS?
August 3rd and 4th, I think it is. 4th and 5th, 3rd and 4th, 4th and 5th. First week of August.
Would you let me know where and what time?
It's virtual,
Okay.
and it's provided through,
Maybe just send me the link?
yeah, I will.
Thank you.
Yeah, they had to register and pay for it.
Okay, I'm happy to do that.
No problem.
Thanks, Nikki. Any other questions for curriculum? Okay. For facilities, I put a packet on each of your spots with just a couple things. The first worksheet on here is the fiscal year report for July through June that Brian is tracking maintenance requests versus planned maintenance occurrence. So for the fiscal year 2020-21, there were 2,190 work orders. Those broke down into 1,380 corrective work orders and 810 preventative maintenance work orders. What Brian and his staff is hoping to do is the pie chart on the bottom. We want the orange section to continue to grow and the yellow section to continue to go down. So more of the maintenance is being done to prevent the breakdown than it is handling the breakdowns. So that's, and then up at the top, it just kind of tells you what some of the general areas are that are being addressed. Matt from Train was here to give our Three Rivers District energy consumption report. So that's this bar graph here. Just in short, the bar graph at the top, the blue is our electric costs, the red is our gas and propane costs, and then the little tip at the green at the top is actually what those costs would have been should we not have entered into the contract with the Train to monitor and regulate the buildings, if that makes sense. Same thing, and you can see we started that contract in 2009, which is where we saw our first green at the top of that bar graph, and then the section of green has continued to kind of grow since that time. Same thing with the graph underneath. 2009, the savings started showing up, and the savings have continued to, the green section has continued to grow as we went. So our total energy savings by entering into this agreement with Train is almost $2.6 million since 2009. So one of the things with Train is the system that we are currently using will not let us fully utilize the new mechanical systems that we have in place. So Brian described it like this: if I have a big Bluetooth flat screen TV on the wall and it has all of the bells and whistles, but I control it with a plug-in remote, I'm not really utilizing it to its full benefit. So the new systems that we're putting in are not going, our old regulatory system is not going to let those have their full advantage. So they are going to look at replacing the system that controls all the buildings. So Brian said him and Matt from Train are going to be meeting about, and potentially some of that can be done with the bond money, and I forgot the other acronym he used, E something something, but that's just another source of funding that could potentially help offset the cost of that. Green is just, again, another energy report from Train, so you can look at gas, electric, energy consumption just in a little more detail. And then the last thing in the packet is the report from GMB and Skillman on where we have gone in the last 4 weeks and where we are going in the next 4 weeks. The only thing, everything sounds like it's going really well. The couple hiccups that they have ran into have been handled really well. Most of the things are on track. He did point out the only, the one school that's giving them probably the biggest headache is Ruth Hoppen. There was some unexpected underground tunnel that was found and a pile of some hazardous waste that had to be taken care of, so that put their timeline back on the work there a little bit. So one of the questions I asked GMB is what happens with if the site work or if this construction work is not done by the time that we bring kids back to school, what does that mean for them in terms of life safety measures? And they said all the life safety measures as far as the fire, emergency exits and everything will have to be in place before our students can come back in the buildings. So regardless of what the construction, whether it's completed or not, those things will be in place before the students return to the building. I've asked Brian and Skillman to attend our August 16th meeting, so that will be 2 weeks before school starts, and I'd like them to give a report of an update on all the construction and tailor a little more towards parents. So if you drive by Hoppin and you notice there's still fences around the playground, what does that mean for my kid going back to school in 2 weeks? You'll have a little bit better understanding of what's going on with the construction there. So I know August 16th is not our regular work session, but I thought that was better for 2 weeks before school versus 4. So they will attend that meeting and give that report. Any questions on that? Okay. And last but not least, human resources. Ben or Kevin, which one's reporting out?
I'll report out.
Okay.
Okay, currently we have several positions that are open in different buildings. Ron's done a really good job of reaching out to several institutions to try to find candidates, so we're more intentional. There was a couple positions that we actually thought we had the person, and they backed out and went to another district. So we're still in the process of trying to find those individuals to fill those empty positions. Skipping down to like ESSER funds, we're using our ESSER funds, we're using some of our ESSER funds this year to provide some positions in our buildings through EduStaff and their day cleaners, sanitizing doorknobs, tabletops, and just doing the same COVID routine that we have done here this past year. So that's definitely a good use of those funds. We also have a successful TA that was signed with our paraprofessionals. So we're moving forward in that area. That's it.
Any questions for Kevin? Okay. Thanks for those reports. Moving on to our action items. First item tonight is the consent agenda. Are there comments or questions on the consent agenda? There being none, I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Support.
Roll call, Lori?
Linda Baker,
Yes.
Melissa Bliss, Kevin Hamilton,
Yes.
Ben Carley,
Yes.
Ann Ryapel,
Yes.
Julia Ock,
Yes.
Aaron Nowak.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. Up next, employment contracts. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following new employee appointments as presented. Amanda Fainstock, the Assistant Principal at Three Rivers Middle School. Amanda Kier, did I say that right? Science teacher at Three Rivers High School. Haley McBride, kindergarten teacher at Park Elementary. Emily Miles, ELA teacher at Three Rivers Middle School. And Cindy Munn, second grade teacher at Park Elementary. Are there any comments or questions on the employment contracts?
I think these need to be approved on an individual basis instead of as a pact.
Do we have approval from the board on that?
Sure.
Okay. Up first is Amanda Fainstock. I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Support.
Roll call, Lori?
Melissa Bliss,
Are we, when do we do discussion on these?
You want, I called for discussion.
I didn't hear that.
Okay, we can call for, you want to call for discussion on each of these individually?
Yes.
Okay. So up first is Amanda Fainstock. Is there any comments or questions?
Okay, so I have not about the individual. I want to make that perfectly clear, but I do have a serious concern about the process. The posting for this position was done internally only. There wasn't any external posting. I have a problem with that primarily because of the qualifications not being met for the one candidate that we had. And I understand that we're going to allow the certification to be completed, and that's another thing that I think needs to be discussed before the contract's approved, is what the time frame for that certification being completed. But to have only one candidate and not post the position externally in order to find out what else might be available. I understand that we want to promote from within. That's one of our strategic goals, but also having diversity within our staff is one of our strategic goals. And if you've only had one applicant, you don't know whether or not there's something more or someone that's already qualified for the position. That's where the change in the policy has to take place. I did go through our policy. I know that we've talked about this for at least since I've been on the board, so I know that it's at least 3 or 4 years, but we need to have a process in place for hiring, and that still is not in place. I don't know why that's not in place after 3 years, but posting is part of that process. I went through our administrative guidelines. It's not part of the administrative guidelines. It's not even part of the new mapping for the recommendation for the processes that we're going through. So that needs to be seriously looked at, and posting positions both internally and externally is important in order to make sure that we have the best candidates for our students. So that's my take on this specific position.
When we have an internal candidate that has essentially been on a 6-month job interview, trial, if you will, and has done a fantastic job, comes incredibly highly recommended from the principal that will be over her, was the recommendation from the hiring committee, vested through the personnel committee twice with no objections. What is the purpose of going externally to find a different candidate when one of our strategic plans is to retain qualified employees?
Well, I'm glad that you asked that, because one of the things that concerns me is that the position was held as an interim, knowing that the goal was to be permanent in the position, but nothing began on the certification process even then. So, you know, I have some real concerns about how long it's going to take for the certification, and I think that that's an important thing to have known ahead of time, which I don't know about the rest of the board members, but I had no idea that hadn't even been started. We've had other employees that moved into their positions before their certifications were complete, but they were already working on those certifications.
But they worked on those certifications after they had their contracts.
They were already working on certifications before they were given their contracts. In both of the two that I'm thinking of, they both, Jason, if I'm not mistaken, you completed yours within a couple of months of having your position, and I think Dave completed his within a year of having his position.
Yeah, I think that's correct.
I'm getting disagreement.
Blair?
I'll speak to that. It takes 18 months to do that, and there's 3 administrators that went through the same process, including myself, that we were given the contract with the knowledge and the piece that we had to have it done within 2 years, 24 months of our hiring, and it takes 18 months to complete.
But that's the full, that's not the short track, that's not the fast track.
That the fast track takes 18 months.
All right, thank you for that clarification.
Yep.
Any other comments or questions on the contract for Amanda Feenstock?
Well, are we going to add into the contract, because it's not there yet, what the expectation is in terms of completing the certification? It's not in the contract yet.
No, but I think it states that it has to be completed. No, when her contract runs, it's for 2 years. If she doesn't have the certification, then she's no longer.
She doesn't get her contract
Yeah,
renewed.
right. So she's got, in essence, 2 years to complete it.
I look in motion to approve the employment contract for Amanda Feinstock.
So moved.
Support.
Roll call, Lori?
Melissa Bliss, Kevin Hamilton,
Yes.
Ben Carley,
Yes.
Ann Ryapel,
No.
Julia Ah,
Yes.
Linda Baker,
Yes.
Aaron Nowak.
Yes, motion passes 5-1. Congratulations, Amanda. Amanda Kier, science teacher. Are there any comments or questions on the employment contract for Mrs. Kier? There being none, I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Support.
Roll call?
Kevin Hamilton,
Yes.
Ben Carley,
Yes.
Ann Ryapel,
Yes.
Julia Ah,
Yes.
Linda Baker,
Yes.
Melissa Bliss, Aaron Nowak.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. Up next, the employment contract for Haley McBride, kindergarten teacher at Park Elementary. Are there any comments or questions on the employment contract for Haley? Hi. There being none, I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Oh, support.
Roll call?
Ben Carley,
Yes.
Ann Ryapel,
Yes.
Julia Ah,
Yes.
Linda Baker,
Yes.
Melissa Bliss, Kevin Hamilton,
Yes.
Aaron Nowak.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. Up next, Emily Miles, ELA teacher at Three Rivers Middle School. Are there any comments or questions on the contract for Emily?
Emily.
Hi, Emily. There being none, I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Support.
Roll call?
Ann Ryapel,
Yes.
Julia Ah,
Yes.
Linda Baker,
Yes.
Melissa Bliss, Kevin Hamilton,
Yes.
Ben Carley,
Yes.
Aaron Nowak.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. And up next, Cindy Munn, second grade teacher at Park Elementary. Are there any comments or questions on the contract for Cindy?
Had the pleasure to work with Cindy years ago, so excited to have her on board.
All right, I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Support.
Roll call?
Julia Ah,
Yes.
Linda Baker,
Yes.
Melissa Bliss, Kevin Hamilton,
Yes.
Ben Carley,
Yes.
Ann Ryapel,
Yes.
Aaron Nowak.
Yes. Welcome aboard, guys. I'm glad to have you.
Congrats.
Thank you all.
Okay, up next, SEIU Local 517M Paraprofessional Bargaining Agreement. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the Three Rivers Community Schools and SEIU Local 517M Paraprofessional Bargaining Agreement as presented. Are there any comments or questions on the agreement? There being none, I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Support.
Roll call?
Linda Baker,
Yes.
Melissa Bliss, Kevin Hamilton,
Yes.
Ben Carley,
Yes.
Ann Ryapel.
Yes.
Julia Ah.
Yes.
Aaron Nowak.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. Up next, milk and bread bids. This time of year, we always approve the bids for the food service department. It is recommended that the Board of Education award the 2021-22 bread bid to Ed's Breads and the 2021-22 milk bid to Prairie Farms as presented. Are there comments or questions on the milk and bread bids? There being none, I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Support. Roll call, Lori?
Melissa Bliss, Kevin Hamilton,
Yes.
Ben Carley,
Yes.
Ann Ryapel.
Yes.
Julia Ah.
Yes.
Linda Baker.
Yes.
Aaron Nowak.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. Designation of depositories for school funds and check signatures. Section 380.1221 of the revised school code requires the board to designate the financial institutions in which the funds of the school district shall be deposited. The designated financial institutions are listed below. Are there comments or questions on the school funds and check signature designations? There being none, I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Support.
Roll call, Lori?
Kevin Hamilton,
Yes.
Ben Carley,
Yes.
Ann Ryapel.
Yes.
Julia Ah.
Yes.
Linda Baker.
Yes.
Melissa Bliss, Aaron Nowak.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. Designation of banks for investment. I have to read this whole thing. As listed below on your sheet, it is recommended that the board authorize the superintendent and/or director of business operations to make investments of available monies from all funds of the districts in the entities listed below. Are there any comments or questions? There being none, I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Support.
Roll call.
Ben Carley.
Yes.
Ann Ryapel.
Yes.
Julia Ah.
Yes.
Linda Baker.
Yes.
Melissa Bliss. Kevin Hamilton. Aaron Noack.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. G, designation of electronic transfer officer. It is recommended that the director of business operations be designated as the electronic transfer officer consistent with policy 6144, investment income. Are there comments or questions on that appointment? There being none, I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Support.
Roll call, Lori?
Ann Ryapel.
Yes.
Julia Ah.
Yes.
Linda Baker.
Yes.
Melissa Bliss. Kevin Hamilton.
Yes.
Ben Carley.
Yes.
Aaron Noack.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. Up next, designation of person for posting public notice of meetings. It is recommended that the executive assistant to the superintendent and Board of Education be designated to post the public notice of the board meetings. Are there any comments or questions on that motion?
So is it a change? I mean, who does it now?
Same person.
Oh, okay.
We approve this every year in our July meetings. And for those, it'll be Lori. I need a motion to approve.
Someone,
Oh, did somebody move? So moved?
Ann and Linda, got it?
Sure.
Roll call?
Julia Ah.
Yes.
Linda Baker.
Yes.
Melissa Bliss. Kevin Hamilton.
Yes.
Ben Carley.
Yes.
Ann Ryapel.
yes.
Aaron Noack.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. Appointment of recording secretary. It is recommended that the executive assistant to the superintendent and Board of Education be designated as the Board of Education recording secretary. Are there comments or questions on that motion?
Lori, thank you very much. You do a nice job, and I appreciate it.
All right, I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Support.
Roll call?
Linda Baker.
Yes.
Melissa Bliss. Kevin Hamilton.
Yes.
Ben Carley.
Yes.
Ann Ryapel.
Yes.
Julia Ah.
Yes.
Aaron Noack.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. Approval of the annual retainer contracts. It is recommended that Troon Law Firm, PC, be retained to handle all personnel, legal negotiations, and contractual matters. Are there comments or questions on the motion?
Is that a 3-year agreement?
I believe it's every year.
Oh, every year? Okay.
Yeah.
Write that down.
Was there a change in the retainer price?
No.
Any other comments or questions? Motion to approve? So moved.
Support.
Roll call?
Melissa Bliss. Kevin Hamilton.
Yes.
Ben Carley.
Yes.
Ann Ryapel.
Yes.
Julia Ah.
Yes.
Linda Baker.
Yes.
Aaron Noack.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. Approval of district auditors. It is recommended that the board appoint Plant Moran to do the district's 2020-2021 annual audit.
So moved.
Support.
Roll call?
Kevin Hamilton.
Yes.
Ben Carley.
Yes.
Ann Ryapel.
Yes.
Julia Ah.
Yes.
Linda Baker.
Yes.
Melissa Bliss. Aaron Noack.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. Last call for public comment tonight. Is there any other public comment? Sure. Yep, do you have your sheet for Ann? No. Okay.
Can we get your name, please?
Jerry Solis. I personally want to thank you guys for not giving up. I know last year was hard. I'm impressed. I haven't always been impressed for what you stood for, but I'm impressed that you guys stood. And that means a lot to me, that you guys haven't given up. And I just want to encourage you guys to continue to give the public a voice and to be interactive with their voice. And something I would recommend at these meetings is testimonials of students. You guys have hundreds of students that are succeeding, that are being encouraged, that are learning, that are achieving, and I think it would just mean a lot to the community. It would mean a lot on your guys', you guys would just carry so much more water every school, every teacher has testimonies of success stories where there's not just policies, but faces put to what you guys are doing. As a parent, I'd appreciate that. And I think the community in general would too. And again, thank you guys for not giving up.
Thank you, Jerry.
Jerry, would you mind completing one of the papers? Thanks.
Any other public comment? Okay. Board calendar. August 2nd will be our regular scheduled work session, with August 16th being the regular board meeting. August 31st is our back-to-school date for the kids. September 6th will be Labor Day. September 7th will be our work session meeting, and September 20th will be our regular board meeting. Any board member comment tonight?
Yeah, a couple. I forgot to mention when I was talking about professional development for behavior intervention, it's just to make a plug for restorative practices and trying to fit that into any kind of professional development. And then the other piece, received some very recent feedback from parents that are wondering about the fall, and they've appreciated getting feedback from the buildings about options. Some that are still very concerned about how and when and what's appropriate as far as the fall goes. So I know it's a moving target, but just a nod of appreciation that the community, some people have shared that they've gotten some good feedback and are still wondering what are the options. So I know we'll continue to have those discussions.
Thank you, Ben.
Yeah, thank you, Ben, for mentioning restorative practices, which we hadn't even talked about for quite a long time. So that's an important concept that I think a lot of kids and parents could benefit from that process if it comes up, if we need it.
I can tell you, there is a restorative practice through K stuff that we have several of our behavior interventionists going through that next week.
Awesome.
Just two quick things. The ISD meeting this morning was an organizational meeting similar to ours. Everybody maintained their same offices, their same positions on committees, and they have the calendar out. So if there's, again, anybody interested, feel free to let me know. The other thing that I wanted to make sure that we were all aware of, and I mentioned it at our last meeting that I'd have more details, but the HUS project and Jerry Resources have combined to offer a agricultural-based hands-on math camp. The flyers are, if they're not out today, they'll be going out shortly. The math camp is 2 weeks, August 2nd through 6th, and then August 9th through 13th. The math camp is geared towards students going into the 6th grade. We found that just one of the greatest drops of student achievement in mathematics seems to be from that 5th to 6th grade movement, so it's focused on that transition. Again, it's hands-on for all of the concepts. The camp will go from 9 to 11:30 on those Mondays through Fridays. The students will then be given lunch, and then there's no charge for it. It's free to the first 20 students that sign up. So if there are teachers out there that have a student that they'd recommend be in it, you might let us know, or let the students or their parents know that this camp is going to be available. Am I forgetting anything?
Oh, it's actually 6th grade.
Oh, yeah, it geared 6th through, well, looking at the curriculum, really it's more 6th, 7th, but that's that transition period that the curriculum is geared to. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you.
Can we help you distribute those flyers?
I will ask that question. Thank you very much.
We'll bump it out.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Yeah, they probably can email blast it, can't you?
Any other board member comment? I just have a couple of things tonight. I want to thank the Board of Education for sponsoring a hole for the Athletic Boosters Golf Outing. It's always a great fundraiser for our athletic programs, and it's cool to see our name out on the sign every year. Also, so we mentioned tonight we got the senior exit survey for the class of 2021. I just wanted to read a couple of the responses from the students in here, so you guys can really get a feel for how impactful your teaching is. And I know this is a survey done to high school seniors, but this really is a testimony for Three Rivers Community Schools. Some of these kids may have had this impact in elementary school, some in middle school. So here is an example of some of the questions. Did your teachers make learning meaningful, and did staff encourage you to continue your education after high school? 90% of our students said yes. Were enough opportunities offered for you to explore different career options? 78% of our students said yes. Did adults at Three Rivers High School treat you with care and respect? 89% said yes. Do you feel safe at Three Rivers High School? 91.84% of students said yes. Did Three Rivers High School offer enough advanced or specialized courses to meet your needs? 76% said yes. Do you feel that you had a broad range of electives, including academics, arts, vocational? 80% of our students said yes. I think that's a really good testimony to our students who are graduating from the class of 2021 of the work that our teachers across this district are putting in. So I just wanted to give a special shout out for that, because those numbers are really quite impressive. And so thank you to everyone who's been involved in that. Okay. No other board member comment. Meeting is adjourned.
Don't have to say so moved.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Yes. Call for adjournment. How about that?
So moved.
Support.
Roll call.
Ken Carly,
Yes.
Ann Rydell.
Second meeting in a row, I forgot to call for
Yes.
closure.
Linda Baker.
Yes.
Melissa Bliss, Kevin Hamilton.
Yes.
Aaron Noack.
Yes. Meeting is adjourned. Now.
Now it's
Can you stay a second on that?
Oh, yeah.